video will be a little bit of a departure from my typical true crime videos. Today I'm going to discuss my first two bank robbers, Larry Phillips and Emil Matasareanu. They were responsible for the North Hollywood shootout in 1997. It lasted 44 minutes, and as a result, both perpetrators were dead and 18 people were wounded. Amazingly, no one was killed but the two robbers. In any case, Emil Matasareanu and Larry Phillips met in Gold's Gym. They were both into bodybuilding, weightlifting, and firearms. Larry Phillips had a long criminal record of real estate scams and all that jazz, and Emil Matasareanu, he just was an unsuccessful software consultant. But anyway, what happened is the duo after meeting each other, decided to rob a bank in Colorado. They got away with it, and then a year or two later, they robbed a armored car and killed one guard and seriously wounded another. Then the following year, they robbed two banks and netted about a total of $1 million, over $1 million, but they still weren't happy. But then again, these robberies are often not about money, they're about power and control. And they like the rush, they like the power. Even Anthony Shea said it was the thrill of the power that he got, a feeling of power and control that he got from robbing banks was worth more than any amount of money that he received. Anyway, these duos were professionals. They didn't screw around with tellers. They wore stopwatches. They were also obsessed with the movie Heat. And they obviously both didn't like law enforcement. So they clearly planned to go down in a blaze of glory. Besides, they had already killed a guard, and they'd both be facing life in prison with no chance of parole in San Quentin. So they basically decided to go out in a blaze of glory. In any case, they were armed with an HK-91, which fires a .308 round, or a .762 NATO, depending on which system you're using, the Imperial system or the metric system. They also had three AK-47s, which fired the .762 Soviet round, and last but not least, they had a Bushmaster AR-15, which fired the .556 or .223. And they had drum magazines, they had M9 pistols, they had a .38 caliber revolver. I mean, these guys were just armed to the teeth. And I mean, Larry Phillips, he had full body armor on. By full body armor, I mean full body armor on his limbs, on his torso, of course. The only thing that wasn't covered in Kevlar was his head. And anyway, the police were not at that time, they didn't have rifles at that time. They had shotguns and pistols, or handguns, whatever you want to call them, and that was it. And this brings us back to what I was talking about, Nicholas Cruz. Everybody wanting to call Scott Peterson a coward for not going in. All he had was a handgun. When dozens of officers were firing at these two bank robbers, and they weren't being able to hurt them at all, but they were getting cut down. And it's like, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot Officer Peterson could have done in that situation other than get himself killed. And in any case, the robbers fired a total of 1,100 rounds. The police fired approximately 650 rounds. For 44 minutes, the shootout went on, and these two were just spraying bullets all over the place. And what you get with these two guys is that they're kind of similar to school shooters, but not really. They both hate society, they hate its rules, and they just don't want to live by it. They just kind of went about it a different alley than just slaughtering a bunch of people. They were obsessed with the movie Heat, and they obviously probably had a lot of fantasies about going down in a blaze of glory. It's just, you know, they decided that they decided well in advance that they were not going to be taken alive. What happened at the end is Larry Phillips had been shot in the leg and he was bleeding out. Both of them had swallowed some barbiturates to calm their nerves. Emil Motosserrano had epilepsy, so that's how they got them. And they went all out. Larry Phillips had been shot in the leg and basically told Emil to keep going, and he fought it out with the police until his rifle jammed, and he shot himself in the head, granted. And the police, they were just going into a gun store and they were getting rifles out to try to confront these two heavily armed suspects. Emil Motosserrano basically did a last stand. He just was shot like 29 times before he just didn't have any fight left in him, and he ran out of ammunition. The police handcuffed him and ripped off his mask, and he's all like, "Fuck you, shoot me." He was trying to commit suicide by cop, basically. And this incident just changed law enforcement forever. They got a hold of rifles and things like that, and they're not going to let that shit happen again. In any case, all their gear and stuff, all the robbers' gear and stuff is in a, excuse me, it's thunderstorming outside, is on display in some museum in Los Angeles. I'm not sure which museum it is. But anyway, the whole thing about these two guys is that they were probably sociopaths, and they decided that, going out and they decided that they were unsuccessful in conventional society and decided it wasn't for them. So they decided to go out and make money their own way. Because it's like they were miserable in society, so why should they follow its rules, basically? Because they might get killed, who cares? Their life is miserable anyway. So it's kind of like Achilles' choice. It's the choice that a lot of spree killers probably make. They can live this long, dull life under society's boot, or they can break free of society's puppet strings, live a short, glorious life that everybody will remember, and go out in a blaze of glory and in infamy and all that shit. And so that there's some overlap with spree killers or school shooters, rampage killers, whatever you want to call them, mass murderers, but they're not entirely the same. They had things other than just a high body count in mind. Obviously, they wanted money and all that stuff. And they were also gun fanatics, as was pretty much well established. And they actually spawned a big cult following about 10 years later. It kind of went downhill after a while, but they had stuff like, God bless the gangsters and all that crap. They were selling stuff like T-shirts and mugs and coffee mugs and things like that. They even sold thongs, which was a little creepy. But anyway, it's just, after the shooting, Emil Motosserrano bled to death because the police followed protocol, and Emil Motosserrano was still considered dangerous. So anyway, he bled to death, and his family tried to sue the LAPD for wrongful death. The result was a hung jury, and the LA Police Department, the LAPD basically said, if you drop the suit now, we won't go for a malicious prosecution, and the Motosserrano family agreed. Anyway, the whole situation was just really crazy. It changed law enforcement forever, and it was a defining moment in American crime history. It really was. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace.